you said justice is coming this morning. It's a sunrise of justice.
Yeah, and that was almost premature jingle there. That kind of hurt.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think things are looking up. Objectively, things are looking up with the 11th Circuit, with Trump's, former high White House lawyers being ordered back into the grand jury to tell the whole truth about Trump, and on and on. The hits just kept coming for Trump this week.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Well, I mean, and as you were saying back when this happened, this was just so improper in the first place. They obviously went judge shopping for Judge Cannon. What she did was completely improper. But I think, as you told us at the time, it just caused the delay that he was hoping for. But that's over now, right?
It is over. And, it's a really important opinion. I would urge everybody to read at least pages 20 and 21, 3 paragraphs, because as I said on Lawrence O'Donnell's show last night, that is about as close as you get to a rule of law poetry. It was so good. And let me say, I was on the panel with my friends Joyce Vance and Barb McQuaid, so I kind of dragged down the IQ of the panel.
You did
but
not.
I have to quote what my friend Joyce Vance said. She said that the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals opinion was so scorched earth that basically they bench slapped Judge Cannon.
Yeah.
And that was a perfect way to put it. And what the opinion said, Steph, is that, listen, if the FBI and the DOJ lawfully obtain a search warrant, lawfully conduct a search, and lawfully seize evidence of crime from Donald Trump's home, a federal judge has no right to interfere in that investigation. That is some scorched earth language, because what the court announced is that Judge Cannon interfered with a federal investigation that has national security implications. I think she's in trouble. I think she's going to have ethics complaints filed against her for that.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah, Tristan Snell, our your colleague, our friend, said Trump loses bigly. 11th Circuit Court rules Judge Cannon was incorrect, eliminates her ruling, orders case be dismissed, special master gone, all restrictions on DOJ use of recovered Mar-a-Lago documents gone, massive DOJ win, great day for democracy and the rule of law. Chris asked you before the break, does this speed things up now for Jack Smith? Or
I don't know if it speeds. Yeah, I don't know if it speeds things up as much as it clears the decks. There are no longer impediments or rules that he has to go by when he's considering what evidence do I need to investigate, what evidence can I use to indict Donald Trump. All of that underbrush has been cleared away. So I think Jack Smith is full speed ahead.
Yeah. Well, this was for more than 2 months. The review had hindered the criminal inquiry, which is what, like you were saying, it's exactly what Donald Trump's done his whole life. It's what it was designed to do. Just delay.
Yeah. And here's the good news. DOJ has so much to investigate regarding Donald Trump's crimes that even if they had to set this to the side momentarily while they worked through this ridiculous order by Trump-appointed Judge Cannon, I don't think it really derailed them or slowed them down, because they had plenty to work on.
Yeah. So I think you've said to us that you feel like this might be the first case up because it's so clear and there's so many documents. But what do you think of the J6 committee as they wrap up? Are they going to make criminal referrals? Should they? Is it going to matter?
Yeah, they're really cramming for their final exam right now. They put Kellyanne Conway in the hot seat, and she testified for 5 hours. Now, whether that was facts or alternative facts, we don't know. But let me just share a data point, then I'll go back to the overarching J6 committee thing. What I always found really intriguing is that Donald Trump first announced on August 17th, 2020, if I lose, the election will be rigged. And Kellyanne Conway, senior counselor to the President of the United States, promptly resigned. Yeah. So we know what she did. Now we need to know why she did it. Yeah. Because I have a feeling those two data points are connected. And if she testified truthfully, I think it's going to hurt Trump.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the one thing they're good at is self-protection, right? And trying to rewrite history and how they're the hero in every scenario and kept, the country from far worse that Trump might have done.
Yeah. And to answer your J6 question, I heard Zoe Lofgren say, not only are we going to issue a final report, we're going to release to the public all of the transcripts. I mean, more than 1,000. Wow. So, investigative journalists are going to be working overtime, but I predict all of them. Obviously, it's all also being packaged up and going over to the Department of Justice. I don't think the J6 committee can neglect to make criminal referrals. If they have the evidence of crime, they have to say, I believe. They don't have to, but they should say, here are the crimes we think are supported by the evidence we developed. DOJ, we're now referring it to you.
Well, that's the thing, Glenn, when people say, it's political. I'm like, how is it not going to be political when a former president tries to overthrow the government of the United States or engages in espionage? Of course, it's all political, right?
And wouldn't it be political if the January 6th committee had evidence of crime in their hot little hands and they didn't suggest to the Department of Justice the criminals should be held accountable?
Yeah. You tweeted, I love when a future defendant unequivocally admits to a crime. Trump, I took them, the government documents that were not my property, openly and transparently. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we ask you to return the only verdict consistent with the evidence, guilty. Oh, my God. How many, whatever these things are, truths do we have in writing of him saying I did it?
Steph, this gives me prosecutorial goosebumps. And here's why. Donald Trump could very plausibly have said, do you really think I packed up those boxes? Look at these hands. Do you think I could pack all those boxes up and, carry them down to Mar-a-Lago myself? Of course not. I don't know who packed them up. I don't know what they put in them. But now he shouldn't call it Truth Social. He should call it Confession Social, because he now has assisted Jack Smith in proving the element of knowingly and intentionally stealing government documents, which would have been a challenge to prove. And then let me add this, because this is less intuitive from that exact same post by Donald Trump. He also said, hey, Hillary Clinton, after she was subpoenaed, didn't give over 33,000 emails, deleted them, destroyed them, whatever. What did he also admit to inferentially? That he received a subpoena and that he didn't give over documents after they had been subpoenaed. So that is also an admission that he committed the crime of obstruction of justice, not just theft of documents.
Right. Also, Hillary didn't do that. Not important now. Anyway, I thought you were going to say it gives you prosecutorial wood in your giant gavel.
Stop it!
But I didn't.
Oh, my God!
He would never engage in such a thing. He has his giant gavel right now that he's picked up.
Oh, my God.
It's
the holiday season.
That's okay. I'm not feeling well. He's going to give me some leeway. You said special counsel Jack Smith's Thanksgiving Day court filing that destroys Trump's lawyers' legal arguments. It seems like people are pretty heartened by the speed that Jack Smith appears to be moving at. What do you think?
Yeah, Jack is a real without fear or favor kind of prosecutor. I didn't know him personally, but some of the folks that were in my homicide section ended up leaving the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office and working for Jack when he was the head of public integrity at the Department of Justice. And I'll tell you, now we have a little bit of hero fatigue, right? Because we thought Bob Mueller was going to bring it home, and Bill Barr basically blocked him and lied about his report. We thought Merrick Garland was going to bring it home. I will say now, having seen Merrick Garland operate over the last year and a half, he's a very good man, but he seems to have lost his prosecutorial instincts, and he's behaving more like a judge, which is not what we need out of our attorney general at this moment in history. But what I've been told about Jack Smith is, listen, he's fearless. He will take politically charged cases that are difficult to prove. He has prosecuted Republican politicians and Democrats, and he's not afraid to lose. He's going to do the right thing. And that's precisely the kind of person we need heading up the Trump cases at this point.
Yeah. Speaking of inappropriate jokes, my favorite is when you said Elmer Rhodes has perfect 20 vision. Now,
yes, that rocketed around Twitter.
You've been keeping
for quite a while.
An eye out for us on this trial, and it turns out justice was not blind. Tell us why.
But I'm
proving seditious conspiracy. Tell us why that's so important. And you also said, will it ultimately, these convictions take down Roger Stone, Alex Jones, and Mike Flynn? Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Go ahead. Speak.
Yeah, this is really big because, and I just wrote a piece for MSNBC Daily that went up a day or two ago, kind of talking about the main takeaways of the convictions of the Oath Keepers. And there are two that I'll focus on. One, now that the government has proved this wasn't a spontaneous riot, this was a concerted effort, and people had conspired to try to violently stop the certification of Joe Biden's win. And there's enough evidence to prove that they committed the crime of seditious conspiracy, the attempted violent overthrow of the government. Other oath keepers are coming up for trial on Monday. Proud Boys in a seditious conspiracy case are coming up for trial on December 13th. Every one of them, Steph, is sitting down with their lawyers right now and thinking about, should I reopen negotiations with the federal prosecutors, plead guilty, and cooperate to try to reduce my exposure? And here's what we know. The Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers were intimately plugged into Roger Stone, Alex Jones, Mike Flynn, and others. So if they begin cooperating, guess who will be the next ones indicted? Guys like Stone, Flynn, and Alex Jones.
Alex Jones has just filed for personal bankruptcy in Texas.
Yeah.
You know, he's openly taunting these poor families, saying they're never going to see a dime, there's no money, blah, blah, blah. What do you think?
I'm not a bankruptcy expert, but I have a feeling the court system writ large is on to Alex Jones' shenanigans. So I think they're going to force him to satisfy those monetary judgments that the Sandy Hook families won.
Yeah. And quickly, speaking of cooperation, so, you know, we've heard that Jack Smith wants to talk to Mike Pence, which is certainly a sign that they're more toward the end than the beginning of this investigation. This whole, like, oh, I'm considering it kind of thing, that doesn't work with DOJ, does it? This isn't a congressional commit. Well, it shouldn't work that way anyway with Congress. But it's not optional, is it? If
no,
they want to,
Mike Pence has disqualified himself from future public office. Here's why I say that. The January 6th committee's main mission is to legislate so we never have another insurrection. Against that backdrop, Steph, Mike Pence, who's one of the most important fact witnesses, because he was the victim of Donald Trump's pressure campaign to get him to violate the law, the Electoral Count Act. And he's the most important fact witness, arguably, in the insurrection. And he told Congress has no right to my testimony. In other words, the American people have no right to Congress legislating to try to avoid another insurrection. You know what? He can close the door on J6 testimony. He can't close the door on a federal grand jury subpoena. And I promise you, Jack Smith will be putting Mike Pence before the federal grand jury and wearing him out, wringing every drop of incriminating evidence out of Mike Pence that will implicate Donald Trump.
Real quick, Trump's taxes, what does it mean that House Ways and Means finally has them? Or has the clock run out? Is the public ever going to see them? What happens with this now?
You know, I think at some point the public will see them, if only in a future report or legislation that emerges about what kind of, you know, transparency will be legally required of candidates for presidential office. I don't know that the fact that Congress finally got its hands on his tax returns really impacts the criminal investigations, but they're really important because it will give Congress the opportunity to legislate. So a guy like Donald Trump, with all these foreign entanglements with countries and banks and dictators, we know Donald Trump was doing his own financial bidding. He was not working for the good of the American people. That hopefully will never recur because there will be laws requiring some financial transparency from candidates and presidents.
Final question. Would you and your giant gavel of justice like to come over for some Harvey's Bristol cream?
Oh, God.
I'll tell you, listening, I was watching President Obama out there stumping for Senator Warnock, and it's like a warm cinnamon roll and a shot of whiskey. It just doesn't get any better, right? So, I accept your invitation.
Yes, that was like foreplay, that Barack Obama soundbite. Stephanie Rule never invites you over for Harvey's Bristol.
How do you know this?
Well, Mike just...
Bye.